welcome you here at this session, or in this session, the local circular economy initiatives, because we discussed many objectives, many definitions of circular economy, and what aims we are following, but how can we get it onto the floor, onto the ground? What are the challenges in reality? And we will focus on this now. And our session here, Tia and me are moderating this session. And this is, here you can see us again. So the session is divided into 2 slots. We have 5 presentations in total. That's why we decided to give you a bit more time for the presentation. We give you 10 minutes and not just 8 minutes, but we will be very clear with the time. So we will start with 2 presentations and have a discussion afterwards. And then there are 3 presentations following. And the first presentations listed here, the first one is from Jacques Fuchs,
Yes.
right here. And he will show us an example of bio-waste recycling, I think so, in Costa Rica.
Yes.
And yeah, we are very happy to see your presentation.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. First, I want to excuse me because I speak English like a Spanish cow, so I hope you will understand my English. And secondly, I didn't speak too loud, so if somebody needs to have sleep after the lunch, you can make it. So I am Jacques Fuchs. I am I am from the Research Institute for Organic Agriculture here in Switzerland. And I will present a project about implementation of a concept for the valorization of organic waste in the municipality of Perez Celedon in Costa Rica. That's a project which is yet finished, and you see we have a lot of partners in this project. It's not just my job. First, a short introduction. Management of municipal solid waste has become a priority in facing global system. And in the municipal solid waste, at least 50% of this waste is organic waste. So Costa Rica will promote composting as one of the alternatives to advance its national principle on sustainability, circular economy, climate change, and mitigation. At the start of the project, the municipality of Perez Celedon operates already one of the largest composting plants in the country. They started in 2012, and they recycle about 8 to 10 tons of organic waste per day. But the process for the plant was technically insufficient. They have a very problem with the marketing of the product, and they have also a big environmental problem with the leachate of the materials. So first, we make an evaluation of the situation at the start of the project. About the collection and reception of organic residue, we see that the majority of the material was collected in plastic bags. So we had after a lot of problems with plastic in the compost, and also in the plastic side. Inside is not organic, or not just organic waste, but also some other pollutants like other plastics. The quality of the input material was very difficult because the material was mostly without structure, just for the municipality, the people who make things in it, so extremely moisture rich with a leachate problem. And they have very difficulty to find other organic residue to mix up to the materials of a better starting mixture. Then about the process control, they had first step, what is a big pile of the materials, which is already biological active. We measure about 50 degrees temperature in it, and we see the leachate at the bottom, which is going out, and the collection, which means they put it in the lagoon in the field next, and a very big environmental problem. Then the process itself, There were no clear separation between the compost batches. There's a big pile and some young material, some old material in it. They have no mixing or very inefficient mixing of the compost pile. The material was very inhomogeneous with formation of compact airtight block, and they have no process control, low quality management so far. Then we developed a concept to optimize the situation. First, about the collection of the reception of the organic residue, we make some things to reduce the plastic bags of green manure by using plastic containers. It was a concept. And also by making information and education of the population, that's our partner from Costa Rica who do this. Then we try to organize structural material as coconut shells and woody materials. It was also the concept. So the next point of concept is to optimize the composting process with control temperature development and the moisture in the window with protocol to optimize the turning process, also to make separate batches, separate pile for the different charges of the compost, and to make regular assessment of the compost condition with all senses, with simple analysis, with a field laboratory. Then quality management, we propose to give job to an appointment of a quality manager. We adapted protocols for the composting process, and we organize again regular analysis of the product, internal of the compost plant or external. And internal, we build up a little field laboratory. And for the marketing and distribution of the product, we organize demonstration trials with the compost produce, compost produce, and we make information, discussion with the potential customers, development of new market. This was done with the people from Costa Rica government. How is the concept implementation in reality? By the organization of organic waste, with the objective to reduce the plastic in the collected green waste municipality. It was a big advance. Some of the waste was collected in plastic container. Some was also still in plastic bag, but without plastic more inside. And these plastic bags were sorted when they are coming in the compost plant by some workers. Then we make training of all the parties involved. For each collaborator on the compost plant was coming to the training. We have first some part of theory and also practice training on the compost plant inside with the people we see here, how they take the compost in the hand and the smell and so on. Then we reorganize the compost plant as planned with the different pile, and we organize so a protocol where they regularly write first what for mixtures they are, and after what for temperature, humidity, and so on, and when they turn the compost. Then we organize with the people there crop trial with the produced compost, pot and field experiment. We see one example here for the field experiment, and the experiment was made with different crops like broccoli, coriander, tomato, coffee. And after we visit this compost field with farmer and with consultant who to improve the value of the compost by the farmer. The farmer knows compost is a really good thing. The plants are growing better with compost. Perspective and conclusion. From the collaboration of local stakeholders in Costa Rica and Swiss specialists, it was possible to implement an efficient compost for the treatment of organic waste in the municipality of Perez-Celedon, from the waste collection to the use of the produce. Of course, they are not very finished. They are still working there to improve the system. What we try to give in the 2.5 years of the project is to learn the people there to fishing and not to give a fish. And so yes, they can all go ahead, and we have still contacts if there are some questions. And very interesting is that the pilot project has a very big interest around all Costa Rica, and a lot of Costa Rican municipalities are coming to observe, to see, and they are transplanting this system in their own area. So we have a multiplication effect, what is very important. And so we could observe the success of this project on environmental, social, and economic point of view. Here we see the team of when we were in Costa Rica. And I want to thank the REPIC. REPIC is the Swiss government platform who give financial support for projects we have a climatic impact. And then thanks also all the organizations that made this project possible. And here you have links by REPIC.ch if you want to have more information. The final report is there and some documentation and different things. So I was too short. Excuse me.
It's fine.
Time, so we will have a short time for clarifying questions. Are there direct questions? Yes, please.
Thanks for the presentation. Did you have a big problem with foreign residues in the compost, like plastic, litter, and how, if yes, how?
So with this plastic is not a problem, we see because of the collection, and so we improve the system as a collection. We make a lot, the partner in Costa Rica and Perez Celedon made a lot of information by the families and so on to make a better sorting. And it is much more better than at the beginning, but there are still some people who collect in plastic bag. And when the waste is coming, first 2 or 3 collaborators of the compost plant put materials on the soil and take out manually the plastic. But the same problem we have here in Switzerland or in Germany or everywhere, the plastic is always the same problem. Yes.
Just for clarifying, because we wanted to discuss the results together. Thank you. Very good. One clarifying question?
I think so. Do you have a monitoring system implemented? Maybe I missed it. For pollutants?
We have the normal control from the end, the compost to be analyzed with heavy metals and nutrient content and so on. That's the normal control we have. And we have also make a little field laboratory where they can follow the parameters and change during the process, like ammonium, nitrate, and so on, to can follow how the process is going on.
Thank you very much. Now, we come to the second presentation in the first block. We will talk about the example from India. I think so. And we are very happy to learn about your initiative.
We'll actually join the presentation, so my colleague Trevor.
So welcome here. Let me see your name so you can.
Good afternoon, everyone. So in the presentation today, we are actually presenting on a support measure that we did under our EU Resource Efficiency Initiative. So essentially, the project is a vehicle for EU-India partnership on circular economy and resource efficiency, and along with policy mainstreaming. Since 2017, in our current phase, we are also supporting the Indian stakeholders, especially the state governments, with some pilot measures. And so currently, the pilot measure that we are presenting, this is something that was conceptualized by the state of Rajasthan, which is in the western part of the country, and they wanted to come up with a dedicated waste recycling park where they could get different waste streams, essentially the plastic waste, e-waste, hazardous waste, end-of-life vehicles, potentially in future solar PV and storage battery, metal scraps, and other things within one dedicated industrial space. And they, once they conceptualized it, they also discussed with us, and so we started with supporting them with undertaking a pre-feasibility study where we undertook also site visits to see if the sites were also suitable for development of the waste recycling park. And now the current site is actually located in the district of Jaipur in this place called Tholai. It is essentially 44 hectares big park, or nearly 123 acres. So in this work on this World Environment Day, the state government actually laid the foundation stone, and we provided them with the three key support: one, undertaking the pre-feasibility study, and then supporting them with undertaking conceptual master planning and zoning of the park. And basis that, they have now sort of carved out 100 plots, which range from 1,000 square meters to 10,000 square meters. And the park is still under the process of development currently with the master planning and zoning. And they are in conversation with the investors, essentially the recyclers and allied industries, to invite them to the park. And they are also setting up sort of mechanisms and incentives, not incentives, but mechanisms to also invite more investment into the park. So this is also ongoing. What we also undertook, and what Rashna will also present, is we try to also see if there are existing best practices around the world on waste recycling park, and if they can also offer us some cues on how the park could be developed, managed, and governed later on, and how the material also flows into these different parks, what kind of technologies are being used, and how those some of those lessons can also flow into the work that we were undertaking. And this is actually, the park was being conceptualized by the state regulator for pollution control, and along with the state corporation for industrial development, so essentially Rajasthan State Pollution Board, along with RICO. So while undertaking the conceptual master planning and zoning, we followed the eco-industrial park approach that was developed alongside with World Bank, UNIDO, and GIZ a few years ago. And we applied that approach to sort of develop the conceptual master plan and zone. And the land use that was proposed was divided into three parts. One was to have a processing zone where individual industrial parts for medium to sort of large scale waste recycling units would come up. Then there is the infrastructural zone, essentially comprising of road network, vehicle network, logistics hub, warehouse, treatment plants, landscaping, green areas, captive power plants, and others. And the non-processing zone, which has administrative offices, laboratory, incubation center, disaster mitigation center, medical center, other government facilities, convention centers, and others. So this is how these were the key elements that sort of went into development of the master plan. We also undertook site assessments for zoning and planning. So we undertook the regional analysis, site suitability assessment, looking at also the environmental, economic, and social aspects, looking at the climate change risk, and looking at how the gender inclusive provisions would also be built into while developing the park. And all of this was done through also undertaking a needs assessment with the potential investors. So before the park planning started, we also, had a form filled in by the investors mentioning to us what is it that they're looking for within the park as well. So the infrastructure and services sort of took into account all of those needs. And I would like to now hand it over to
So basically, when we talk about the park management, that was quite important because this is a agreed document or the common atlas like with World Bank, UNIDO, and of course GIZ approaches on industrial park planning. But when we were deep diving into the best practices, it was actually very tricky because waste recycling in total, they exist for electronics or end of life or others. So this we are trying is as an integrated approach. The materials, say from electronics, are also now, or from cars would also be like a lot of plastics and electronics. So it's not only aluminum and metals and all of that. So that's how this integrated approach was quite essential. So when we were doing the best practices analysis, the waste streams, planning and conception, what kind of approaches exist globally, And of course, the resource efficiency targets that can be taken and applied to a park planning were very essential, looking at largely from the job, policy management and others. So coming to this, I think for us, these best practices range from Japan to Germany to Finland. And looking at the implementation, so when we come at numbers, we are actually talking of e-waste generate, like the India is actually the third world's largest generation in e-waste. So that's one. Coming to end-of-life vehicles, we have close to 2 million vehicles in India which will be end-of-life or are already at the stage of getting end-of-life. So these are like large potential streams, but we still don't have technologies which one don't address the waste specific streams. And of course, it also doesn't address the park management. There is not a common infrastructure existing or something like this. So I think this is first of its kind. And what we are looking at is also investments from KFW, from EIB and other, no? Because I think this is where the park management is actually looking at that how do you enable technology transfer, how do you look at different waste management streams, as I said, electronics to vehicles, and of course looking at other material streams. So that's quite essential, especially in terms of potential synergies of technologies that can exist across the approaches. So that's important. And the other element was, of course, looking at existing frameworks for waste management that exist. We have a plastic waste rules, we have e-waste rules. These all rules exist one by itself. There's not a integration approach, as we also have it in Europe. It's not an integrated approach which we have actually seen. So I think this would be first of its kind if it actually becomes successful at a larger scale. We find investments. We have two larger Indian automobile manufacturers, both Tata and Mahindra, who have actually applied for setting up a end-of-life vehicle facility here. So even a lot of scope for R&D, and that's what a project like ours actually promotes, that we can actually look at also a lot of research, technology, design elements as well. And what is also crucial is in terms of dedicated entities about knowledge management, skills, capacity developments largely. So from the governance perspective, even though the rules exist, what we still look at public-private partnerships, the government approaches, associations, industrial associations to take action, and of course to make viability with partnerships and financing. Yeah. So even if it's end of life circular economy approach, not a major upstream, but here I think the overall strategy towards better enforcement as well as the viability of technology would be crucial, and that's where we are looking for partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also here in the front, and so we can have a discussion of both presentations now together. And it's your turn, so please take your chance and.
So yes, first of all, thanks a lot to all of you. So it was really great listening to you. And I think actually it was a question for you, Jack, but I think this is a question for everyone because it touches quite similar points. So you have mentioned that there is an interest from other municipalities to adapt the system or to use it, and also what you have done and with your case study is also to implement for the first time such a system. So I'm curious to learn more about where do you see the biggest challenges for transformation or to other places, municipalities, or with you when you have installed that?
That's a very important point. And that's also one of the important points for the REPI to finance the program. E1 program, we can make a multiplication afterwards. So on the contrary, we have also some information. We have it active over municipalities and so to come and to discuss with us to see what we are doing, and that we need a lot of communication, and the local people make it also. It was a very good collaboration, and that's very important. And the problem is similar in all the municipalities. They have all the same problem. So if they can see one solution, they are very interested to have this. So we were 2.5 years. Sandra was Swiss managering from the project, like my boss. And so we are working that I was 3 times there. And between the mission, we have always contact regularly with the people for the exchange. It was 1.5 year plan, but it was a little bit longer because it was some 3 years ago a virus somewhere. I don't know if you know it, COVID or something like this, and so it make all the project a little bit more longer because sometimes we couldn't make the job. Communication to the over to multiplication is very important point. Yes.
So, in our case, I think the biggest challenge is to access the material because we have largely the materials that I referred, e-waste, plastics, or even end-of-life vehicles, they actually end up in our informal economy. And from there, bringing it to a centralized park, the pricing, that's why we're looking for a larger investment from the private side, where the OEMs, the equipment manufacturers, or the producers actually take responsibility and make investments. Then it's a business move. Then you can have economic instruments like positive fund or other mechanisms that can promote. And of course, the policy push to actually enable like common infrastructure like this, bringing investments is quite crucial. The other would also be in terms of larger investments, as I mentioned, with KW or with European investment banks and others, because it has to be a large scale transition. And that's where it is, yeah, a larger investment. So right now, the state government just provides plot sizes and land, but you really need the technology investment to come in from the yeah, larger brands and manufacturers.
Thank you.
The short, I will continue the topic with Costa Rica in the next presentation.
Can I ask, does India have end producer responsibility legislation?
We have it in plastics, we have on solar panels also now, we have on waste and electronics. It's been there from 2010.
Waste time.
That's how this is crucial now that infrastructure.
Questions? Then maybe I have some. First one, do you also both of you, or all of you, you also work with the society, the local society, because also the collection, I can imagine, is a challenge. And the second question would be, do you also focus on design for circularity? Do you also work with the companies who are responsible in the end for being waste free? So,
Thanks. Indeed, I mean, this is just one example of what we are doing in terms of working with different stakeholders in project. But we have been engaging with different kinds of stakeholders, including not just businesses, civil society, research organizations, youth, and when we haven't targeted consumer groups, but consumers in general. I mean, that is also part of the entire discourse that we're trying to build on resource efficiency and circular economy. So we target all stakeholders. We have done a range of trainings and awareness workshops with these stakeholders, including youth. I mean, now there's an Indian Youth Climate Network that has been doing a lot of training across India with educational institutes. So we're doing that. We're also working with innovators there. So definitely, yes. I think the second part of the question was eco design. Indeed, I mean, so like we said, there are extended producer responsibility in many of the waste streams now in India, and within that as well, we see that, for example, there is, at least in terms of eco design, there is targets to include the secondary raw materials within the development of new products. While we in the project also push for more and more upstream measures, and we have been supporting the Ministry of Electronics with developing an eco design guideline. So that's something that we have also been doing. And now with the Department of Telecommunications, we're also going back to talking about, okay, what about the design? So indeed, I mean, we're not just focusing on the end of life management. That is something that a lot of, I mean, you know, there is this drive in the country currently where there will be many more e-waste parks coming up. So this is going to be like a more, it's a waste recycling park, not just focused on e-waste. So.
Yes, we have a very big contact with the people there. Really important. The project, we didn't come to Switzerland and say, you have a problem, we can help you. So people have a problem, they ask to us. They ask us because they know we are specialists and they ask us if we can help them. So the motivation of the people are very high. And we have the people, the municipality, for asset us at the consulting people who make a job with the population. One university from there, and they make the most job. We make a coaching, and other people what we know, but the most job they make themselves. And the municipality rents make the job and the compost plant itself. So the compost plant belong to the municipality, so it is not industry. So in this project.
So there are, as Deva mentioned, there are policies which are actually promoting the reuse and recyclability part in the design itself. But then we're also looking at designing circular economy strategies for specific ministries like the Department of Telecom and Electronics to actually look at subscription services with the procurement change, that they actually have a sustainable public procurement led, and they don't look at just the end of life e-waste disposal and then the tendering processes. So that's one element. The other is also with regard to the civil society action where consumer awareness. Sorry. Yeah, so more of consumer awareness engagement as well.
Where does the waste streams come from?
So these are from the nearby regions, and since we were also looking at this kind of points which might reduce the waste over the years, so that's also a bit of change which is happening. Currently, it's in and around the state of Rajasthan, but they do not have so much. So, but it's closer to our key areas of generation. So it will be actually across the different states. And yeah, I think eco-design is actually looking at a lot of sectors.
Thank you very much. Is there a last question from the audience? Yes.
Yes, sorry, just that you touched a very important point. My name is Alejandra, I am from Colombia, and we have a problem with informal recycling because it is a business for them, right? So I want to go maybe a little deeper in how do you approach this population because you are taking away from them their business. So how was the process with them?
So we originally e-waste we actually started with this approach of getting the informal embedded, because that time, and it's proven also that we actually have manual dismantling operations that's much more efficient, resource efficient, rather than having a shredder and like shredding the entire product together. So I think that was accepted by the Indian government for a few years ago. Now they're just looking at, because there was a lot of leakages from the informal and the access of waste still to the informal, 90% of the waste actually in India gets recycled but goes to the informal. So that's where they have a problem. And they've actually tried to divert that by setting up this EPR legislation where informal would not get the access. But parks like this, and that's where this holistic planning is essential, that they actually get skills, they get job opportunities by raising their standards. And even in the producers like the OEMs, they're also looking at manual labor. So I think that's more or less there. But some part of the waste actually has to be taken out of that value chain. I think we can't, yeah, there are also other ministries' initiatives on setting up schemes which promote them as MSM, like the micro, small, and medium enterprises, setting up clusters for them, upgrading them.
There is always a part of the informal population that is not going to want to incorporate into, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much again.
Yes, good day. I will take over the next section. This lot we going from household level, which is almost a micro scale, up to more industrial. And in between, Sandra is going to tell us about municipalities in Costa Rica, and it seems to be organic waste, which is very important. I don't know, in my country, it's 56% of our waste, so it's a problematic waste stream. So Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will continue talking about Costa Rica a bit. In this case, we have, I'm speaking on behalf of the municipality. We, SCAD Foundation, are supporting this year a small pilot project that I will also present, but I will present what the municipality of Turrialba is doing to solve the organic problems. This project is developed with the municipality of Turrialba with ACPESA, which also is this NGO was participating also in the Pérez Celedón project and SCAD Foundation. And we also have some resources from the Swiss government through COSULE. I will go rapidly within the national strategies just to give a context, and then to the municipality and including the topic of waste pickers, because this is also important in this municipality. So we are working with the municipality of Turrialba. This is about 80,000 inhabitants. And in Costa Rica, they have national strategies to tackle the global warming. For example, they have the national decarbonization plan with activities till 2050. They are including integrated waste management, promoting composting very hard in the country, so that they develop a national composting plan, also planned to 2050 and 50. They are including different aspects, but mainly organics management, soil carbonization, and how they can support or engage in the global decarbonization actions. And they also have a national strategy for circular economy. And all of these documents, national documents, include organics and specifically composting. And within this framework, the municipality of Turrialba have a roadmap to moving towards to circular economy, focused on organic waste also. They have 5 action lines, mainly in the municipality. One is the selective collection of and municipality composting plants. In this part, in this number 1, they have been developing a project towards inclusive recycling in Costa Rica. This is with waste pickers related to home materials, but we are including this project also in the pilot that I will show you afterwards. They also have a pre-feasibility or pre-design of a municipal composting plant. They are not starting yet the centralized composting activities, but have a design this year, and they are also this year designing a business strategy focused on circular economy of organics. The pilot project that we are this year supporting from the SCAD Foundation is related to restaurants, sodas, and this kind of commerce organizations. It's very small, but it's very important for the municipality because they are really trying to learn about, for example, the technical issues that they are tackling nowadays with the pilot. So they are doing trainings, theoretical and practical trainings with the CATI. CATI is a tropical agronomy research center in Costa Rica. They are supporting the technical trainings within this small pilot project. And the operators of this very small plant are from the Association of the Pig Recyclers. So this is a very important achievement for the municipality. We have now 35 food stores in the center of the municipality participating. So they are delivering the organic waste twice per week to be treated in the pilot plant. And they are also designing and redesigning the selective collection, really as a pilot project. They have nowadays about 300 kilograms per week in the plant. And they also delivered containers and information trying to prevent since the beginning the plastics into the waste that they are receiving in the plant. This is the small project that could finish in November this year. But we, with Pérez Celedón, are structuring a possible multiplication project for the first lesson learning from Pérez Celedón in order to support the starting with the centralized plant in Turrialba. And we also have developed some material with the environmental education office in the municipality. This is focused to the restaurants, the pilot project. But of course, the clients of these restaurants are also learning from the source separation towards composting. And they have been implemented since 2-3 years ago, also strategies for households, organic waste, in situ and community composting, and also using or trying to use this paca digester that is not exactly composting, but is a soil improved technology. So they are trying to tackle the problem with families, with communities, with commerce, and are expecting to start a big project next year, hopefully with our support or participation too, to start with institutional and the whole municipality organic waste. The main issues that they are tackling nowadays is the limited resources to start the plants, for example, or to get more equipment, overcoming legislative hurdles related specifically with pickers. They have the association, yes, now, but there are some troubles in the legislation, for example, to contract more people from the association and so on. So this is an issue that they have stressed is important, and achieving, of course, the cultural change that the source separation requires. And they are expecting to have the composting centralized plant with around 16 tons per day in some years. And they are expected also to be using the compost in the municipality activities and maybe also selling them it. And they are expecting also an agreement with the association of the recyclers. And
Thank you. Are there any clarification questions? Yes.
You said regarding the legislative hurdles that there is some legislative hurdles regarding employing the waste pickers from the associations. I wanted to understand a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't have the whole information about that, but I know it is not easy to involve recyclers. Of course, they have to be organized, like in associations, for example. They have this check, but they have to participate also in continuing training. This is because this is what we are supporting also trainings. I don't know if, for example, they are allowed to collect waste out of the formal system, for example, and this is like a tendency to work with informal or formalized recyclers because they know what kind of waste can achieve. And maybe this is one of the points with the formal collection system, but I don't have more information. I can take your email and talk more about it directly with the municipality.
Another short question? Okay, thank you, Sandra. Now we're moving westwards to Ghana. So, Wabena is going to present for us challenges of value chain dynamics to meet the ideals of circular economy in low and middle income households. Welcome, and we look forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to present today. So this study is part of my wider PhD research study, and my PhD research at the University of Central Lancashire. So today I'm going to present the key findings.
You have to take the microphone for the people online.
Oh,
Probably.
Isn't it
The
there?
microphone.
Okay, take this
So
one.
there is people online.
And speak in this one as well.
Oh, I got it.
hello, can you hear me? So this research is part of my WRF PhD research. So this study, I'm presenting the key findings of an evaluation of the Jakura Risk Segregation Program in Accra, Ghana, located on the map here. So the study tried to investigate the challenges that the Jakura Ventures were facing to establish a value chain for plastic waste collected from households as part of the waste segregation program, and then to evaluate, to investigate the participation of households, participation and engagement of households in the Jakura Waste Segregation Program. So the Jakura Waste Segregation Program is one of the rare formal pilot waste segregation programs in Africa, and it's the only formal pilot waste segregation program in Ghana, operated by Jakura Ventures, a private waste management company. So the program was initiated in 2013 as part of a partnership between Jakura Ventures and the Environmental Protection Agency in Ghana. So to recover recyclable waste from source, which is very important for the circular economy. So in 2013, the program started with government offices and then also business offices. Jakura tried to get recyclable waste from these offices for valorization. And this is very important for the ideas of the circular economy. So based on initial successes of the program was expanded to households in 2018. So between 2018 and 2021, over 32,860 tons of recyclables have been collected and diverted from landfill and for valorization. Also, 2,359 tons of plastic waste have been recovered through the program and diverted for recycling purposes. So in order to conduct the evaluation, I adapted a mixed method of approach to achieve triangulation. Now, triangulation involved combining qualitative and quantitative data collection and analysis methods in order to identify the key comprehensive and in-depth key findings, and also to be able to get data with high validity. So, for example, questionnaire data collected from households were validated or were confirmed with interview data, and then also secondary data from internal reports from Jakura Ventures. So, and vice versa. So this provided robust data. As you know, waste management data is quite, sometimes can be not clear in developing countries and lower and middle income countries. So 210 household clients of Jakura who had access to the Jakura Waste Segregation Scheme filled questionnaires and returned the questionnaire. Also, I conducted interviews with 7 stakeholders, including municipal officials who are in charge of waste management and other waste managers of other waste management companies. So a key challenge which was realized from the data was irregular collection. So irregular collection was the root cause of most of the barriers impeding the participation of households in the waste segregation scheme. But I would like to reiterate that although collection was the sole responsibility of Jakura Ventures, Jakura Ventures irregular collection was caused by other challenges, some of which were not in the control of Jakura Ventures. And this included inadequate finance, inadequate infrastructure. So Jakura Ventures struggled to raise income to sustain their operations because in Ghana we have this charging system which is prices assessed by local assemblies without considering the total cost of operations of companies. Is mostly politically motivated. So Jakura was always running at a deficit. So there were big income gaps which prevented Jakura from operating efficiently. So they had to buy second-hand trucks. They couldn't renovate. They couldn't get new equipment on time, which became a challenge. So that had an effect on collection. And also in that infrastructure, access to some of the areas operated by Jakura were practically impossible during the rainy season, which became very challenging for Jakura ventures. So although, and then there's low compliance with legislation. So on paper, Ghana government, we have a lot of legislation, deposit return schemes, but the money does not flow through the system. And also there's low compliance and enforcement of the law because of political interference and other challenges. So even though it might sound like it's the fault of Jekura ventures on operation-wide, most of the challenges are wider challenges which impeded their operations. So because of irregular collection, households didn't want to invest their time to separate waste. They also didn't have space, and most of these households were low-income households with smaller spaces to store waste. So they wouldn't want to invest time to separate their waste and wait for weeks without, or months without the waste being collected. So this is a quick diagram to show to illustrate the value chain created by the crowd ventures. It's very basic. It shows the flow of plastic waste from the households to the end product. So the crowd collects the plastic waste separated by household, which is quite important because it provides clean plastic waste, and then they repackage the plastic waste, sent to middlemen who recycle and export some of the plastic waste and turn the plastic waste into pallets and forward it to bigger recycling companies. Now, I wanted to highlight the losses as a result of the challenges Jekura faces. So you can see in the orange boxes, because of capacity and financial challenges, Jekura are not able to collect a lot of waste streams. So they only focus on plastics waste, which leaves a lot of other waste, recoverable waste like organic waste. In Africa, we have in Ghana a significant portion of the waste is organic waste, and these wastes are still sent to landfill by Jekura, which is not good for the circular economy. And also because of irregular collection and low compliance with legislation, the informal sector collects take advantage and collects separated waste, which have already been separated with the ground ventures, and then they sell those wastes off. And also because Jekura does not have the capacity to recycle the plastic waste, they have to export some of the plastic waste and send it to other recyclers, which is a loss to them because they go through all the process, pulling the waste, and then they end up losing a lot of waste. So based on the findings, I was supposed to identify opportunities which Jekura ventures will explore to enhance the value chain. So I'll quickly go over the main challenge. So the key factor was irregular collection. And based on my recommendation, Jekura ventures are looking to work with the informal sector collectors to outsource some of the collection to the informal sector collectors. And also, communal collection points have been proven successful by other waste management companies, and which I suggested to Jekura ventures. Like for example, if you look down here, a private company called CESA established a communal collection, which had proven very successful, especially in low-income areas where households are motivated by money, monetary incentives to send the plastic waste, and also low-income areas are also difficult to access. So if you set up the communal collection, it saves the crowd going around to collect the waste. And then finally, I mean, finance-wise, external donor funding, Jekura depends a bit on external donor funding, and also, but the government can do more by doing the traditional work, improving infrastructure, and also helping Jekura to access funds by guaranteeing loans with Jekura, because the banks see recycling as a risky business, so you don't give Jekura loans. And also, the government, finally, the government can help provide subsidies for Jekura ventures, tax incentives, which will be crucial in bridging the income deficits which Jekura faces. Thank you very much.
Any clarification questions?
Thanks for your presentation. I just wanted to, could you go back to a slide before? Yeah, when does Jekura actually finish? Do they finish at the top there by producing goods, or where does their boundary end?
Thank you for your question. Good question. So because I had to bridge through the presentation, I didn't go into details of the supply. So Jekura collects the plastics. So this is the car household in the Jekura area. So Jekura collects the separated plastics, repackage the actually there's a printer.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So repackage the plastic, but because they don't have the capacity to recycle, they sell to intermediary collectors. They are small recycling companies who then try to produce the plastic into these kind of pellets, and also they export some of the plastic which they cannot recycle.
But Jekura's
business
model stops the packaging. Yeah.
Stops the packaging, which is a shame because, or which is unfortunate because Jekura get more from trying to process the plastics and then trying to set up. So one thing Japan are looking at is to create capacity for recycling on their own. Currently, they have capacity for composting, but they don't have capacity for recycling plastic.
I asked the question just because of the finance element. I was thinking, where does they find what ways they finance a problem? But okay.
Yes, and yeah.
There's another question, Dave.
I have a question. Doesn't Ghana have a plastics levy, where the plastics are taxed and then the tax goes into the plastic waste fund? Doesn't Jacora have access to that fund? Because you were talking about government financing and the lack thereof.
Good question. So government has some kind of plastic levy. It's linked with producer charges. They tax plastic with importers. The challenge, based on the findings, the challenge the crisis facing, they are not able to access such funding because it doesn't trickle down. So most of these funding are locked up in funds. And the government keeps postponing when they were going to allocate to the CRA. So it becomes a challenge for the CRA and other companies to assess, although the funding, the taxes are in place.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The last presentation is deconstruction, reconstruction, construction of resources and competencies as metabolic relationships with transforming value change. I had to read this. I know Elizabeth, and I don't know the other two presenters' name, but I'm sure you will introduce yourself.
Please let me start with, first of all, saying thank you to the organizers for being here and for having the great pleasure for sharing with you our insights and perspective on rethinking values and rethinking resources. And you already have heard here our title. So it's reconstruction and construction of transforming value change. And as already said, we are really happy to give you some insights. Probably the title seems a bit blurry at this moment, but I'm pretty much convinced that at the end of the presentation, and probably also illustrated by slides, you will get an idea what is behind the topic. So, but also what you can assume is when looking at this title, that this might be too complex, as it's always when we, or quite often when we deal with raw materials or resources, to be addressed by only one person. So, and therefore, I'm really happy to be here today with my co-authors, Kathleen Reif, Ina Marie Oravietz, and Mike Jungblut, and also not being here today as a last co-author, Stefan Böschen. So my name is Elisabeth Clausen. I'm a full professor and director of the Institute for Advanced Mining Technologies at RWTH Aachen University. And I'm so happy to have them together with Ina Marie as well, with Mike Jungblut.
Yeah, hi there. Thanks for your patience. We're really sorry, but we hope that you enjoy our presentation. My name is Mike Jungblut. I'm managing director or the managing director of the Roskopf Group. We're a supplier for the mining industry in the Rhenish area, and I'm the chairman or woman of our Alliance Mine Revier. Hello, I'm Ina Marie Oravietz. I'm an architect and urban planner, and I'm running an architecture studio together with my husband, and we are called OX2 Architects, and we do in transition. Back to you. And finally, also Professor Kathleen Reif, being food professor and head of the Department of Organic Material Cycles, Water from Aachen University, as well as Stefan Böschen, who unfortunately could not be here today, but also gives his greetings to all of you, who is responsible and the head of the Human Technology Center at Aachen University, and specifically focusing then on the sociological aspects and socioeconomic aspects. So you have seen all of us, we're having different backgrounds: primary mining, secondary resources, architectural, urbanist, company from the business side in the mining and power plant sector. So, but what unites us? It unites us that all of us, we are coming from the Rhenish lignite mining area.
So the stylische Revier. So, and probably as you may know, so in former and so nowadays, we are strongly dependent on lignite mining activities. And in our region, we are currently in structural change. We are changing from fossils to regenerative energies. And it's also, as you know, energy is always connected to mineral raw materials or to mineral resources. We also in a change and transition from extractive to regenerative value chains.
Yeah, and we do need a lot of lecturers because it's a multitasking challenge today, as you see.
So we are talking about life cycles, and especially in this session, we heard a lot about end-of-life situations, talking about waste. And the truth is that our traditional idea of the circular economy is a circle. But in our opinion, it doesn't fit very well. It's more about a spiral. I think the circle is inspired by the Christian notion of eternity. Yeah, and that's why put that image on the idea of items and things. And you were talking about waste, you know, it's ending at a certain time. And whatever waste could be in the future will never be that where it started from. And that's why we created the spiral to explain, for example, the proportions and relations between material, the energy and renewable resources, as well as human resources in different proportions. And we are talking about space. It's not a two-dimensional, it's a multi-dimensional idea of how circularity should work in the future. And how to deal with the avoiding of coming to an end, coming to the final point. And that means we have to increase the radio. We have to expand moments of circularity to lengthen the moment till it comes to an end. And this expansion is extending the life cycle of a product, of material, for example, by repurposing. And we will show you an example of that. Our studio is working together with the University of Darmstadt on the repurpose of rotor plates from the wind energy. And what we do is that we collect the rotor plates as a whole. We do not shred them or burning them or recycle them or do some chemical separation of material. We just keep them as they are and use them as high performance building elements in architecture or in infrastructure.
Yeah, so, and you have seen one example, how do we increase the radio? Of course, you're all familiar with the R strategies here, what you see here with narrowing, slowing, and also closing material cycles. And so what you have seen a brilliant example with racing rotors, and you also have the chance to get an impression, also a further insights with the poster presentation outside. On the repurposing of wind rotor blades. But what all these strategies have in common, all of them are in need of material and resource sensitivity, and also consciousness along the whole phases and all phases of the lifetime. So coming back to the spiral, also when we think about it, it's about revolutionizing resource thinking. So what does it mean? We need to think holistically when we talk about raw material value chains or resources. So integrating primary as well as secondary resources and raw materials. And also come with the spiral you already have seen. We are convinced that for transforming material cycles, we need collective brain capacity and power. And even furthermore, more longer we have to repurpose or react or work towards the degradation
and devaluing of resources and raw material streams, more collective brain capacity, power, creativity we need. And if we take it to the spiral, it's more like an inverse spiral, increasing knowledge, transformation by collaboration. And this is a question of how to create a momentum. And this momentum is very often we talk about materiality, but it's not about alone about materiality. To create a momentum, we need to put human resources and human in the center of the development. So human beings with their knowledge, expertise, skills, but also, and this makes it so challenging also, even though all of us we are talking about a global challenge, they are embedded in a socioeconomic context, in a cultural context. Because every context has its own challenges and also possibilities and opportunities. So what our idea is, and we'll come there in a short moment, is when we talk about transformation, specifically for the Venus mining lignite area, we are working on developing an innovation ecosystem for transforming value chains, for transforming resources, for transforming competences by putting humans in the center. And this is my review. Thank you. Yeah, how do we put the people into the focus? How do we implement the new approach Elizabeth just told us about? We founded the Alliance Mine Revier. It's an alliance of suppliers of the area together with other stakeholders. And what we're doing, we are shaping the future together. Nobody is able to do this on its own. So we founded the alliance, and our idea is to take the ideas or the processes of deconstruction, reconstruction, and construction of materials, skill, competences, and to focus on 3 sectors, which are the construction, logistics, and energy sector. And we try to implement new value change based on these 3 processes and to take into account the 3 sectors. But because time is up now, I would love your questions to be based on our alliance, which tries to establish innovation ecosystem within our area. And this is a sketch note which was drawn at our Come Together in June 2023. And I'm closing the presentation with a picture of all the participants. See Ina Marie, Elizabeth, and myself. And thanks for your patience. And yeah, thank you for having us. Stay tuned and look out, as we say back home.
Are there quickly clarification questions before we go into? Yep.
Hi, Richard Berner from Berlin, also from Germany. Sometimes driving the highway, you will see like this transport of wind turbines or transport of these wings, and they're incredibly large. And I'm wondering, when you use them for buildings, this must be football stadiums, or I don't know, because if you don't deconstruct them, they're, yeah.
So yeah, I've seen one example there, but Ina Marie, are you directly answering to that, how the structures look like for the rethink rotors? It was said that they're quite big. So definitely they are thinking in big structures for different purposes. So what you see more illustrated then also on the poster, it could be a stadium, but it could also be for landscape purposes, for environmental protection.
Yeah. Environment, as well as a platform for on sea shore offshore solutions, artificial islands we can build out of them as well for rescue or transport. So our aim is not to produce waste. And the energy sector of renewable energy, like wind energy, they do have a waste problem. Yeah. And in the building section, we do have the need of material.
You know, in Germany, for example, we are using the most of all mineral materials, raw materials, which are produced in Germany, goes to the building section. And so we need to find solutions which will reduce our CO2 footprint. And this is a very good example to have a cross innovation between two different sections, between two different industries. And I would say it fits fantastic. Yeah, they do have the waste problem. We do have a need for material, and we have the solution for this challenge. Yeah, and we have, I think, a range of, by the time now, 15 different versions of how to use rotor blades in a constructional manner.
Thank you. Can I ask our other two presenters, Sandra, to come to the front? And I'm going to ask Sandra to finish answering my question. To remind you what I asked is other options for organic waste in Costa Rica.
Jack said, biogas and other technologies because but not easy to implement, especially because of the initial investment. And for them, the compost is also an opportunity to increase, for example, organic agriculture. That is also important in Costa Rica. And the municipalities are also saving financial resources using the compost, for example, to maintain the parks and so on. So this is absolutely a solution for them.
Lorena.
Yes, I have a question. I always have questions. Now, I work in waste management lots of years in Latin America. And one of the problems were people living in the garbage, normally family. So we successfully implement like a formalization. And the second important part, and I think in Africa it's also the same, so maybe you could also answer, is finance. We lack of economical resources, we lack of money to implement solutions. But don't you think that maybe we should be rephrasing it? We lack of innovation in finance to fund these things. Maybe we present it in another way, maybe as investment portfolio in sustainability, or not just asking our government that has a lot of problems like health, education, housing, infrastructure, to split money to this problem. How do you see it?
Yeah, in this at this moment, it is accessible resources for many institutions in international cooperation because of the topic, circular economy, global warming, especially with organics. So now there are opportunities also in the international cooperation. But of course, this problem is very common in all our countries. In the municipalities, there are no economic resources, still an issue, I think. The government should include within the priorities, national priorities. And I think Costa Rica is giving an example with this kind of projects, and not only the strategies and legislation, but also supporting. In the First Celedon project, for example, they receive some resources from the national arena to implement the plant, to increase the quality of the equipment, not only from us as international cooperation, but also from the national. Just for the first point, Turrialba is tackling nowadays that the sanitary landfill will be closed. So as of the Association of the Recyclers, these people were working in the so this association is like also like a pilot project for this region to demonstrate that they have the capacity to organize as association and to find different kind of opportunities, including organics, because there are many projects with informal recyclers organized, but in plastics and other materials. So we think in organics there are also opportunities, and composting is important also to generate new jobs.
Avena?
So I'll touch a bit on the finance. Jacora Ventures, regarding organic waste, they set up a big compost plant. They set up internal revenue generation through composting. They have a big facility, so that they are working on. Currently, they have a lot of plans for upscaling plastic recycling. So they generate a lot of money from the compost as well. Obviously, it's only now. But I touched on the government. I understand the government has challenges, but there are taxes which are already in place to raise funds, which are not trickling down to the companies, and that's what is causing the problem. Because, for example, there's a tax on plastics importation, and then the government tax plastic companies like Coca-Cola manufacturing plastic product, but it goes into a fund and then it moves from one fund to the other, and then it ends up disappearing. So that's where so actually if we highlight these things, then it will highlight the issue, and then people will hold the government for account. Because on paper, if you read about Ghana, we have a vast legislation on recycling, certification, but if you go to the ground, it doesn't reflect. So things like that. But I understand that the government has other challenges. Infrastructure-wise, a lot of money allocated for road transport, but it only happens 2 years to election or during election period. And there's an election in Ghana next, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of roads there. So that's it. But they are trying a lot to generate a turnout. From my experience, I think if they get the support now, it will be sufficient in the next 5 years.
Yes.
Just inspired by your question and your answers. Isn't it a question of the narratives we are listening or talking about? If waste, in our opinion, does have no value, there will be no financial reason to invest in waste. And if we think that the transition will work without a huge input of raw materials, it will have no truth in it. And I think we have first, before we ask for investments and finances and, well, practice at all, is to change the stories, to change storytelling, as well as we tried to do in our very short, chaotic lecture, because of technical, beat the system. And we made it. Thank you very much to Rebecca. I think, first of all, we have to change our narratives, how we talk about the challenges and how we talk about our solutions we are putting in the societies of the world. That's maybe a little bit philosophical, but I think this is where we should start before we find those very fantastic, impressing, as well as you, impressing practice you do in the transformation.
It seems you dying to ask a question, John.
I mean, it is already a big change in the last 20 years, 30 years. So waste is no more something without value. Waste is recognized as something with value, and we see it. How many companies, I don't know in Germany, but I mean it's the same in Switzerland, how many waste companies are fighting for the waste. So waste and yet a big value, because we can recycle it or use it again as you make. And I mean it's very important. We also to think globally and to work together. For example, you have a problem with organic waste in your plastic, and I have a problem with plastic in my organic waste. So we have to make more job together to think globally what you can use for other things. We have to use it, what we can recycle, and it is There is not one solution, but a lot of little solution put together so we can solve the problem. I mean.
I just you, I will come to you.
Very exclusive position we do talk in our own bubble, I'm afraid.
Thanks a lot, and I would be happy to react on that. I fully agree to that, but I think it's so important, specifically also this with resources for to exchange ideas, to learn from each other, to get into discussions. But I think it's also important to think and have in mind and to modify and adapt it to the socioeconomic situations and challenges, which are really specific. And so all countries or regions have specific challenges, and what we done here is or what we present is to give you an example for a region, for one region where we currently phasing out from the coal mining sector, where other countries also in that regard, so in Europe and pretty much I'm convinced also in the next century also that's how to the changes here not only about the raw materials but really to change the landscape. And this is what I think it illustrates quite good also the fact that it's about transforming culture, values, people, resources, business models, products, with the help of having a materiality or raw materials focus. But it's so important so that we learn from each other and so then also that we have the chance, and this is also what is important for us that we get the chance also in our region to have an experimental space to really experiment on and to extend and reconfigure also how business works also when it comes to raw materials in a participatory approach, and then potentially also we hopefully have the chance also potentially to support also the international discussions on what to give ideas or insights and learnings.
Can you talk hard enough?
Yes,
Should I?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm Richard. I'm also from Ghana. I commend Abna for his presentation. But what I want to say has to do with your question concerning innovation. In Jakura Ventures, I know you do a lot of what we're talking about, but one of the challenges we have in our country is unemployment. And if you have to think about innovation, one way that circular economy can solve our problems is helping young people to find a niche in some of these areas. So for like the organic waste that you're talking about, in my area, we train a lot of young people to identify some of these areas that they can use organic waste to produce some other things. For instance, agriculture is one key area in our country. And now there's urban farming everywhere in Accra and sometimes in Kumasi. So if you are thinking of how to get your plastics without some of these organic waste, you can also think about how to train these young people to venture into agriculture using some of these organic waste. Thereby, they clean your plastics for you before you even get there. And then they use that as a means of producing something that will also be beneficial to them. Again, we are solving unemployment. So you can think about that as several ways of bringing up innovation to solve your problem. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you, but also I agree with you. We need to change the language because, for instance, I work in waste in the norm for plastic recycling in Mexico from 2016 until before the pandemic. And the language was different in terms of Mexico produced a lot of protected agriculture in the frontier with the United States. They say always that they are too close to the United States and too far from God. So that's let's then
the same.
too far from God and too close to the United States. So that gives them 300,000 tons of plastic waste every year, with an increase of 20% every year with the export that United States sent them as raw material for recycling. In 2016, the recycling capabilities were 5% of those raw materials, and the rest was burned
for poor families in order to cook and to warm themselves. So it was a social problem and an environmental problem. But the point was we changed the language. So we made agreements with those states that were sending garbage because it was high quality garbage, better quality than the one produced in Mexico. So mixed with the Mexican garbage, we did have good raw material for producing new products that we export them back to the United States. So we did like long-term agreements. And as far as we had the agreements, we could, knock doors and get technology and get money. And right now, Mexico recycles 45% of the plastic produced in Mexico. It is $1.5 billion of GDP every year and 1 million employments, direct and indirect employment. So we need to innovate, not just in technology, in our messages and how we fund what we need to fund, because the money is there.
I think Lorena put it very nice, Karen. I think that should be our concluding remark. We are already a bit over time. I thank you for your attention. I thank the presenters.